as long as whenever it's finished, it's in order, that's fine. What I like to do is write the whole alphabet on my paper, and then I'll fill in as I go. So think about school. What are some things that are related to school? Or some words that describe school? Like, I would write art, reading, math.
Boker Tov, Talmidim, Chaverim, my students, my friends, and welcome back to another Soulful Psalm. I have to admit that the intro clip to this particular session is different from most of the ones you encounter, but it is, at the very least, instructive. It's explaining how one creates an alphabetical acrostic poem. And that's our topic for today. We're going to be looking at an alphabetical acrostic poem, which is one of the conventional ways that psalmists created psalms in biblical times. Now, I am going to introduce another term, my own term, into this, and that is abortive consistency. What is abortive consistency? That's where someone sets out to do a series of things in the same fashion over and over again. And before you even know it, it collapses. I'm sure that there's a very good reason for this happening. Maybe the poet who does this only gets to a few poems and then it gets inserted into the collection, and the poems that follow after his selection doesn't make it. They don't imitate it, and it continues. Who knows what's going on? I just have to say that abortive consistency is my consistency. I often start out thinking I'm going to do this thing this way over and over again. And before I've gotten very far, I've already, diverted from my intention. So that's what we're dealing with here. And what we're talking about are Psalms 111, 112, and 113. And in each case, there's something going on that is consistent, and so you notice it immediately, and then you also notice the minute it stops. So when it comes to Psalm 111, 112, and 113, the key thing that they all share together is that every one of them begins with the word hallelujah. Now, that's great. And we'll see this pattern appear again towards the end of the entire psalm collection. The phrase hallelujah as an opening to a psalm will become common once again. So I can't explain to you why this happens briefly here and then gets interrupted and then continues later. One assumes that somebody inserted something in between or something was going on. It's hard for us to go back in time and understand what's happening. The other thing that is abortively consistent is that two of the three Psalms, that is Psalm 111, Psalm 112, but not Psalm 13, are all alphabetical acrostics. They, whoever was writing, who loved starting every psalm with the word hallelujah, also apparently started thinking, I'll write all of these in acrostics. And then somewhere around 113, it became too hard, and he stopped. So, you see these visual and literary patterns, and then they disappear. And in retrospect, it's inexplicable. Trust me, there are scholars of the Psalms who have analyzed these things to death, and every one of them has a pet theory about why it happened the way it does and why the Psalms appear the way they do now. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just calling attention to these elements and let you figure it out for yourself. All right. So Psalm 112. Now, Psalm 112 has one other feature. So now we're getting on to three features. one other feature that distinguishes it from the psalm before it and the psalm after it. And that is that Psalm 112 is a wisdom psalm. That is to say, it is a sapiential psalm. That's the word that biblical scholars like to use. It comes from the word sapien, like Homo sapien, and it comes from the idea of humane. That's what sapien means, human. So we have what we call the wisdom tradition, the sapiential tradition, the humane tradition of writing, which is mostly intended to help the reader live the best possible life without arguing for miraculous interventions or God stepping in to fix something for us. What is going to make our life most likely to work? That's what wisdom literature is about. And that's what's going on in this particular psalm. So let me share with you some of the language. It starts, as I predicted, hallelujah. It is also acrostic in that it's Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, all the way down for the beginning of each verse, which gives a structure to it. But the poem goes like this: Hallelujah, Aleph, happy is the man who fears the Lord. Bet, who is ardently devoted to his commandments. Gimel, his descendants will be mighty in the land. D, Dalet, a blessed generation of upright men. Hey, wealth and riches are in his house. Vav, and his beneficence lasts forever. Zion, a light shines for the upright in the darkness. Chet, he is gracious and compassionate and beneficent. Tet, all goes well with the man who lends generously. Yud, who conducts his affairs with equity. Kaf, that he will never be shaken. Lamed, the beneficent man will be remembered forever. Mem, he is not afraid of evil tidings. Nun, his heart is firm. He trusts in the Lord. Samech, his heart is resolute. He is unafraid. Ayin, in the end, he will see the fall of his foes. Hey, he gives freely to the poor. Zion, his beneficence lasts forever. Kuf, his horn is exalted in honor. Resh, the wicked man shall see it and be vexed. Shin, he shall gnash his teeth, his courage shall fail. Tav, the desire of the wicked shall come to nothing. All right, so we took the entire 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet and we've constructed a poem around it. And the emphasis throughout it, I mean, basically, I think there's one reference to God in the entire psalm, is about what one should do in order to live a memorable and worthy life. That's the whole focus of this psalm, right? So the person who lends generously, the person who conducts his affairs fairly, the person who shines a light for the upright in the darkness. In other words, he draws attention to the path through dark and murky times that will lead to justice and success, who is gracious, compassionate, and beneficent. That's the whole thrust of this psalm. And as often happens with wisdom psalms, it will make a contrast, which it does in the last few verses. The wicked man shall see it and be vexed. It will just irritate someone who doesn't have these same virtuous qualities. He shall gnash his teeth, which is a lovely way of describing being vexed. His courage shall fail. All right, the person will lose, I don't know, the conviction of his wickedness. He will fail. The desire of the wicked shall come to nothing. All of their plans will fail. That's the whole essence of the problem with the wicked. But most of the psalm is interested in what is good and right, and what will result in you and your children being remembered and honored. In that way, it's, I guess the word we would use is slightly prosaic. It's a prosaic poem. All right. English does funny things to us. But it's good advice. I think it's good advice, and it's a worthy way to think about this, even if it's not completely consistent with the psalm that came before it and the psalm that comes after it and everything that proceeds from there. But these three psalms, 111, 112, and 113, all begin with hallelujah, and two out of the three are alphabetical acrostics. So stick that in your grist mill and grist it, and tell me what you think it has to say to you. Thank you, everyone, and we will continue next week.